But then other system goals, taking care of our trees, forestry manager Mike, taking care of our buildings, facilities manager Charlie, and our circles and plantings really focused on the parkways, Ivy and Mark. So a lot of team members, you know, and again, the idea of throwing these spaces up there and talking through them every week is, or every meeting is that you build a relationship with the various layers of the staff here at the Conservancy. But with that, as I mentioned, we're going to sort of do a deep dive into playgrounds today. Just to get started, I wanted to sort of bring the playground into the room before I turn it over to Z to walk us through some conversation. So just some photos we can always reference back to if need be related to our Colvin playground. Some of the things we want to think about is sort of the elements of a playground. So the equipment for 2 to 5 young kids at that end. There it is. I mean, riveting fun stuff. We got the equipment for the 5 to 12 age group, you know, bigger stuff. But we also want to be thinking about swings out there. Again, we've got some regular swings, we've got kid swings, we've got a swing for people with special needs. But also we want to be thinking about our furnishings and our seating here. There are 3 picnic tables associated with this playground. That's it. But we also want to be thinking about our access and our surfacing on the playground. Again, we've got the timber border. We've got some pathways around there. We've got some access points. Fairly poor service in that regard. Then also the bigger picture of access. When we think about not only ADA accessibility, but then take it further for universal access and inclusive play. This is a playground where there are no pathways to take you from anywhere you would park at the edges to the playground. That is far behind the times and something, you know, just for starters, we want to resolve through this process, but bigger conversation there. So just as Dean's getting ready to come up, walk you through the process. Here we are in conceptual design. We're going to be moving through with the goal of the end of the year, detailed design. So there will be another meeting focused on the equipment and really diving into the details, bring people back together for. And then once we make those decisions, the lead time for delivery of the components is quite a large chunk of time. So basically, once we make these decisions, we are going to be sort of in line for delivery of components with basically the goal of end of summer construction and enjoyment. So with that,
Hello.
Opportunity to
Hello.
hello.
At Olmsted meeting on Zoom.
Hey Patty, how are you?
I don't really care. I'm just doing it because I'm nice. I couldn't care less what they're doing with the playground on Amherst Street. So yeah, over by Colvin.
I will turn the floor over to Z.
Thank you. So for those on Zoom, I have sent you all a link to a Jamboard, and I will be sharing that Jamboard on here on the screen with everyone. Jamboard is basically an interactive thing where we can post it, so those on Zoom can also contribute. So we'll start off first by emphasizing that the main point of the focus group is to also acknowledge that the Conservancy is not an expert in building inclusive playgrounds. We are hopefully the expert in taking care of our parks and our historic parkland, but building an all accessible universal playground is something that we've tried at another point in our future point. We are learning throughout the process on how to create a public space that is accessible and inclusive for all children of abilities. So we are, in the meantime, that in order to make that product successful, we are relying on expert partners in the community, like visually impaired services, or deaf access services, independent living, teachers who are serving and who have kids and care for children. and importantly, caregivers and parents who are treated. And so hopefully through this focus group, we can identify and share about our concerns and suggestions and recommendations in our experience. And we will share everything with our playground designers. Thank you,
Good to
John.
hear.
Can you hear me better, Jenna? So hopefully through this, perfect, thank you. Hopefully through this process, we can all have some input, some sharing, and we'll send it to our playground designers. The playground designers have multiple experiences in building inclusive design playgrounds throughout Erie County as well as nationwide. So in this process, the next process, like Ryan said, will be to bring us some proposed design concepts and come to the community again. So as a start, I would ask, like, is any of you here specifically here because you're concerned about the playground on Zoom and in person? Okay. Would you like to share more about the neighborhood you in, the children that you care for?
My name is Megan. I live in the Vernon Triangle. I have lived in Parkside and the Vernon Triangle for my entire 38 years of existence. I have one son. He is going to be 4 next week. He's not differently able. He's, you know, if you look at him, he's normal, but he is a normal 4-year-old. He's a runner, he's a track star, and he's a terror. I'm basically here. That playground has been there. I don't know, I think it went in when I was like 8. So it's been there a very long time, and I'm ready to see something that can include kids of all abilities. And while I still have the floor, I just want to say that there's a lot of all allegedly inclusive playgrounds throughout the entire Western New York area. They're all very far from here. None of them have like splash pad or water access. Also, most of them are not fenced in. And as my son will take off, and I'm looking at Amherst and Colvin, and then somebody coming to hit him. But even kids that have special needs, I'm sorry, I don't know the proper term, have special needs, there can be tougher to manage. So enclosing the area some way would be helpful, even if it's just a 4-foot.
Am I noting this down? I heard you. Playgrounds in the air. And those on Zoom, if you would like, you are free to add post-its yourself. You can click on this button here and you can click on a sticky note, choose your favorite color and add a comment to the question. So we'll go back to the first question. Thank you for sharing. What's your name?
Megan.
Megan, thank you. So, thank you for your perfect. Anyone else would like to share relating to the program?
Well, I'm a grandparent and I often take my grandchildren to the playgrounds. Specifically, I go to the one near the Rose Garden in Delaware Park. And what I love about that one is the trees. You know, there's lots of shady areas where you can sit or stand, and it's just, you know, the temperature is so much more comfortable when there's trees. And there's also a lot of places to sit down as well. So I know a lot of people come and, you know, they bring their snacks or lunches with the kids, and it's a very welcoming place. So I think if we incorporated some trees or shade and a place to sit, it would be, you know, very beneficial.
Awesome, thank you. Would anyone on Zoom like to share anything? Feel free to speak up.
Thinking about those things while other people are getting their thoughts together. So one aspect of this playground we can think about is the precise location of it, moving it potentially away from the road and closer into the park. There are some trees where currently it's really out in the middle of open lawn area. And related to the seating, tying the two thoughts together. Sometimes in playground design, you can even use benches at the perimeter, almost as a barrier, as a wall. So putting the benches close together at the edges to almost create offense without offense, or just some level of boundary where you're there sitting in between, your kids and the hazard around it. So these are all part of the design process. Great points.
Jana, would you like to say something?
Sure. Sorry, it's really loud. I got all three of my kids in the kitchen with me. I have also taken my kids to that playground a lot of times, and I like that it has an area for littler kids and an area for bigger kids. I think that's great. I think that any new playground needs to have that. I know it was mentioned earlier that there are no paths to get there. So if you are bringing one or more kids and you have a stroller, you can't hold any kid's hands while pushing a stroller on the grass. So a path would be excellent, or several paths. And I think it's really just so important to make the new playground accessible. Right now, because there's mulch and the edges of all the playground areas have that big kind of like railroad tie around the edge. So any kid who wants to play there has to either be able to climb over that and then walk safely on mulch, or have someone lift them over it. And that's not great either. As far I know, they're obviously going to replace all the swings, but the current baby swing that is there is pretty garbage. It's not safe for any baby under a year, because it just has a little chain across the front and they'll just slide right out of it. But I think in general, a lot of the great playgrounds they have that are outside of the city, like the one at Billy Wilson Park and the one that's out in Pendleton, Mason's Mission, not only are they accessible and they have, you know, an area that's a little bit further away that's smaller for kids who might be overwhelmed by being around a lot of kids. I think that's a neat thing you could do, and there's enough space there to make something small. And I think it has all these other fun things for kids who don't necessarily love climbing and jumping. Like there's little things to drum on and things to kind of interact with in different ways. And I think that's also really important for kids playing at the park. But yeah, as far as being a parent, like lots of shade, lots and lots of shade, and shade over the swings, because standing there in the beating sun, pushing your kid on the swing is kind of my idea of hell. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Jenna. So I just want to make sure shade and swings. Feel free to add in anything that I missed out from your.
Accessibility.
Yeah, sure.
I could add, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jill. I live in Parkside as well, over on Crescent. So this is a playground that I have a 2-year-old and one on the way, that we walk to like on a fairly regular basis. I second all the access. There's really no good way to walk there with the stroller, and that's tough. There's also that nice like little secret hiking path that I don't think a lot of people know about through the woods to it. And I just like could foresee utilizing that and like the design of the new playground, like making people aware that there's actually a cute little walking path through the trees there. But like most importantly, we avoid it in the summer because of how hot it is without the shade. So that needs to be addressed as well. And I think, you know, there's not really good bathroom access for the little ones. I saw that someone mentioned the water fountain. I think that would be a great addition as well. There's a lot of people who walk dogs through there, and you know, having the like person and dog water fountain would be a cute idea. But yeah, I pretty much echo everything that's already been said.
Thank you, Jill. Bathroom access, water, human and dog. Are there any other? So it's a great segue into going to the second question. Actually, a lot of you have already touched on the challenges. Are there any other specific challenges that you see right now in the existing playground? So pathways, so the challenges can be seen from different ways. One is the playground equipment itself. The rest can be more like the area around the playground. So the shade, the access to the playground, the pathways. Let's see what else. Parking, bathrooms and drinking fountains for sure. directly related to the playground equipment, but relating to the entire experience of being in the playground. These are all the different factors that will affect
Mentioned protection from the surrounding roads.
protection from surrounding roads. Okay. Put something in the chat. Definitely second, bathroom access and not just a porta potty. It's almost impossible to take one kid into a porta potty while leaving the others alone if bringing kids there. Any other challenges that come up in your mind?
One question that I had, and I'm not told, I mean, I'm familiar with Delaware Park, that's my youth. But from the standpoint of people coming to the park, oh, we know there's a park there. Is there signage or a plan for signage to bring that, get somebody from out of town that isn't familiar, but they have heard about the parks? Is there a plan for that?
So
sort
you
of
mean
thing?
signage in terms of directional or?
Coming to the park and they've got kids, but I don't know if there's in, you know, the description of the parks that there are playgrounds available and this type of thing.
So directional signage in the playground, especially if you're not familiar with.
Just to make sure it's obvious that it's not a private playground and it's accessible. It'd be nice to have, you know, something park and just like a sign that makes people know it's publicly owned and it's a city playground that anyone can use. That would be really welcoming.
Ensure that signage has wording.
Isn't there a plan, right, master plan right now for signage throughout all the parks? Long Becker is involved, which will include, I'm sure, yeah, this is good to sort of make sure these fine points are noted.
Yep, yeah, and I think all this sort of ties a lot of things together. We do have kind of a general signage and wayfinding plan that, you know, it's in the handout actually, so that is moving along, but the tying it to, and again, sort of, you know, expanding on it in terms of getting people not only when they're there, directional information in the park, but tying that to the website in terms of people from out of town, you know, and also, you know, adding where we need to, there's sort of gateway and sort of celebrational identification signs, sort of celebrate something that is new and exciting, and we want to encourage people to come.
What they have at the Outer Harbor is great. It's very well marked, and you know how to get there, playground and in, but then all of a sudden I'm a playground expert in the last 4 years. But the signage at the Outer Harbor is just running along the whole way, just where to go, different paths, different places.
And just to follow up, so that's like when you're driving towards it, there's things that sort of reinforce.
When you get off the 5, like at the Outer Harbor, right when you get there, it says you're at the park, and then it says go this way for Wilkinson Point, this way, this
Direction. Thank you. All right, this form will be emailed to everyone later, so if you do think of anything else, feel free to add it in. And so from everything in the previous questions and like the different recommendations that everyone, what would you say are some top priorities? And this question is important to the Conservancy and our funders, mainly because sometimes projects like that are limited by funding. We want to make sure that we are using the resources we have in the most community-minded way possible. So what would you say? No worries, Jenna. So what would you say are some top priorities that come to mind when it comes to all these recommendations? And I would emphasize that the construction of this new inclusive playground is the first step towards creating inclusive play for kids. It's not an end. There could always be a phase 2 where we implement additional improvements. So like, what comes to mind when immediate priority this has to happen?
I would say for me, it's already been mentioned, but pathways too. But this is more of a dream and I'm feeling like, if I'm reading the room correctly, it might be a phase 2. There's no walkable water access in Parkside, North Buffalo really. So I put in the comments today when I filled this out, Pier 51 in Hudson River Park in New York City has water access splash pad all within the fenced in playground. It is absolutely incredible. Like I said, I'm a playground expert. All of a sudden, we're on vacation and stumbled across it. And it has like a nautical theme or whatever, but there's a splash pad at one. And the water trickles down. And then the playground equipment is through it. And it has all the soft ground. I do not think that that's as accessible as we want at the actual playground equipment, but I think that that could be worked on since we're starting from scratch.
What was that example again?
It's Pier 51 in Hudson River Park in New York City.
Thank you. That's good. It's good reference when we have different parts of like real life examples. Any other top priorities that come to mind? So did you say pathways? Yep, okay. So, okay.
I guess I would say a focus on imagination, not just physical play.
Mhm. So with estimated construction, so based on the timeline that Brian shared, and now with like delays in the supply chain and all that, it would likely be in an August construction time. Would you think that is a good time from your experience as someone who goes to the playground, or would you prefer that it's delayed till after school starts so that there's less kids there? Kind of like, would you rather have construction ASAP, or would you prefer that we wait? What do you think?
I think you're gonna hit the legs anyway, so you might as well start as soon as you can.
Okay. Anyone on Zoom have thoughts on that? ASAP. Okay.
There seems to be a consensus about that.
I mean, from the pictures you showed us, it looks like it's really in dire need of rehabilitation.
Thank you. So I think we have consensus on that from in this room here. And in the previous focus group that we did, it was a similar consensus as well. Yeah, so Stephanie Crockett, our executive director, is also saying that it would depend on the availability of the equipment by the contractor, and yes, that is definitely, that would be, so that is part of the supply chain process, I would say, like because the contractor has other projects. If only they are dedicated playground design for the parks, but they're not. So they have projects throughout the country and throughout Western Europe. So depending on their schedule, supply chain, and when we can get this done in as quick as possible in 2020. All right, to you. All right. So any other further comments for now? Do you feel like your burning questions are answered, or if anything out there?
I have
So
one
the
thing.
survey. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just want to say that in general, playgrounds, you build them for kids to have fun. But most of the playgrounds are just not comfortable for parents to be there with their kids. So there's a lot of kind of standing around or sitting on something that's uncomfortable. And I just really would love it if it was a place where everyone in the family could be comfortable and having fun and enjoying it at the same time.
Yeah, like a Starbucks in there or something. Bar. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Everyone's
He
having a
says,
good time.
my son has one thing he wants to say.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Monkey bars.
He wants lots and lots of monkey bars for climbing.
Monkey bar.
One thing that we got from a teacher, she herself has a child with disability, and she's with the parent teacher center at BPS. And she was saying that how do you create playgrounds and play spaces to encourage independent play for kids, that you don't need a parent to like guide them to do things. How do you create a safe space for them? And especially for children with disabilities too, to build confidence in them that you can do everything a child who does not have any disability as well. So, and our playground designer is very well aware of that part of thing. And I thought that was a good perspective. As someone who I do not care for a child with disability, it was definitely like a sense of like, okay, we need to create these safe spaces for kids of all abilities, such that how you nurture them from young, and a good perspective. All right, I think I'm good here. Any other questions? Okay, I'll hand it back to Brian. Thank you, everyone. Oh, and the meeting, oh, sorry.
I'm really glad this was first because I would put my kid to bed. But thank you guys for doing this, and I I did leave my contact info on the sheet, so I would like to be included as far as
Absolutely.
we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in terms of next steps, as he was mentioning, so we've been doing these small group sessions, getting into the weeds, getting people's perspectives, we're going to bring all the information together, give it to our consultants, who are, again, the experts that are helping us through this process. But we're going to bring everybody then together with that information where they can really give some visuals to give people a real sense of the shape and size of what's possible, so that we can start making some decisions and getting things ordered. So we will keep you posted on the exact date of that next meeting. Yes.
Can say the other thing, I know it's a number of years ago, MLK had a huge play area that somebody donated. I believe.
We're talking about the community build kaboom project.
Yeah,
Yep.
I just, there probably are people out there with money to donate.
Yeah, and we've got a good seed funding from our council member and our legislator, but as the excitement builds and people start to get excited about phase 2 and those sorts of things, again, eventually will be opportunities for sort of bringing in additional funders so that we can expand and the that aren't in this first round of funding that we can potentially build bigger and bigger. So, yep, we've got the expertise here at Olmsted to sort of make those connections as we need them. So, good point. All right, so moving on with the agenda. So getting into our projects. So back. So again, encourage you to survey is still live until the 6th. Yeah, so but there are people who haven't taken the survey who could be users of this playground, or again, we're working in CAS too, down in South Buffalo. Please go on if you can find one of these tabs. We've got that QR code. You can just pull, takes you right to the playground, but DFL Park/playground also gives you that. All right, so moving on with our agenda, a couple other things to discuss. And then just for those in the room, and I'll just sort of do a quick run through. We do have a handout that I'll be able to mail out to everyone with the sort of general updates on the rest of the capital projects. But a couple things I want to keep people engaged on is the Region Central process. Got this page up here basically to sort of see the sort of steps along the way. The timeline has evolved, obviously, from this slide, but the most current information is going to be on the website. So get yourself connected to the Greater Buffalo Niagara Regional Transportation Council through that website to get the most up-to-date information on the Route 198 project, now known as Region Central. But just to sort of talk us through where we are, There's been obviously a lot of work going on. Where things still remain is the evaluation of mobility scenarios. Basically, you know, all the ideas, all the goals, all the history laid into like, okay, here are 4 options, basically in terms of what the future of this roadway corridor could look like. So that is where we are now. But in December, we're going to be moving into the final stage. So this is a very key moment in time to get yourself connected in, where they are going to take all the information, all the comments that have come in over the last several months, and they're going to sort of whittle 1 down to 4. That is in part, you know, selecting a sort of key, you know, one of the 4, but it's also bringing in options and bringing in preferences that were expressed from each of those scenarios and sort of creating one sort of Frankenstein of hybrid, as they say. So that is going to be coming up next month. A public meeting is going to be scheduled. We are going to make you all aware as soon as we hear the date, because we want a lot of people involved in this process. We want, you know, as much as we can build consensus around, you know, what is the future of this corridor that impacts neighborhoods, impacts parks. So very important. So again, 4 scenarios. There's ideas about taking away part of the expressway, taking away full expressway, replacing the expressway with an at-grade roadway, or sort of keeping things the way they are. So again, this is all sort of a background on this process. This has been out in the community for several months, and where they're starting from. It's also important to realize that they're thinking about not only the thin roadway, you know, the asphalt of Route 198 end to end, but they're also thinking about, if we make changes here, what are going to be the impacts to other roads, the parallel roads like Amherst or Forest or even Hurdle, and what, you know, intersecting routes like Delaware and Elmwood and Parkside, Main Street, you know, how are we going to sort of make a network, not just a corridor? So a lot of good work going on, but again, that timeline and that website being the key place to find the most current information. And there's lots of opportunities to sort of give your input even now. But also putting the advocacy hat on, there is a coalition of stakeholders, end to end, made up of community groups, advocacy groups focused on the water, the waterkeeper, the cyclists and transportation with Go Bike, the parks with the Conservancy, that have come together and sort of created a vision that we're continuing to make sure is an aspirational goal for this corridor. And that's the idea of a vision for a restored Humboldt Parkway through the east side, you know, restoring that great connectivity between Delaware Park and MLK Park, between the Hamlin Park community to the Parkside community to Delaware Park. We also have a vision for a restored Delaware Park. This is really important to the meadow in a meaningful way for park users. But we also, in our partnership and all of our priorities, you know, we have a great water system in Western New York, and the Scajaquada Creek is the tributary to the Niagara River and the Great Lakes here in this part of town. We want to be celebrating that. We want to be creating a waterfront campus. We want to be creating an engaging shoreline experience. And we think this is the opportunity to really sort of have these aspirations, have this vision, and see what we can achieve. So again, through the Scajaquada Corridor Coalition, sccoalition.net, you can find out more about that work. But please, again, encourage people to get engaged in that process. And then the final thing, in terms of major discussion items, is some progress related to the ring roads. The Department of Public Works, with the support of the Conservancy, has put forward a recommendation to Common Council for the permanent closure of the ring road, two cars. And as part of that process, it was submitted. It has been referred to the legislative committee, where they'll be taking further conversations next week. And then assuming that moves forward, there'll be a process of installing sort of more permanent temporary barriers on the short term with better signage, sort of make it operationally work. It's all been coordinated and worked out not only with the Conservancy, but the zoo in terms of the operational aspects. But then the next year, here in this room and through other public venues and opportunities we develop as part of the plan, we're going to be engaging the community in what is that permanent solution to sort of make this road closure process work well for access, for accessibility, for wayfinding, for all of those things to make sure everything's functioning really well in a permanent fashion. So again, sort of decision-making time, then some interim steps to sort of make things function in the short term, further study, further engagement in those sort of permanent, more sort of final reconfigurations of things. With the sort of background of the last several years of seeing how it works and sort of learning as we go together. So any conversation more on, not only this, the 198, before we sort of dive into some of our other projects along the way. All right, well, great. Good to hear. We're all moving things in the right direction. So again, I will do sort of a quick run through. Again, a lot of the information is in your handout. So please review that. But for the folks on Zoom, you'll get the benefit of the handout. We've sort of seen through a number of projects that have been moving along in District 4. So the first being the grand staircase. So this project again is under construction. This is a restoration of the granite steps down from Lincoln Parkway. The construction team is out there. They're making some modifications due to some sort of surprises along the way in terms of some foundational elements or lack thereof, which really couldn't know until we started pulling it apart exactly how complicated it is going to be. So it's in good hands. We've got one of the best masonry contractors in the region as our partner on this project. So things are moving along and relatively on timeline and schedule. Gate Circle, again, you've seen the improvements in terms of the restriping at the circle, changes within there. Here's the restriping work. Take us through adding in crosswalks and better pedestrian measures, which was certainly a high priority brought up through the process. But again, moving forward into the next phase, sort of such excitement about phase 1. Phase 2 is moving through the process, and actually funding has been identified through our transportation improvement program earmarked for the year 2033, with the idea of sort of taking the next step in sort of community outreach and building public awareness about the conversation, but really sort of working into how we take the next step and adding some better pedestrian access and better functionality and traffic calming within this corridor. So paint gets us part of the way, but there is funding earmarked to sort of help us through the next step in the next year. So again, more to come, but that is really a 2023 project that I'll be keeping you all abreast of. Other construction projects, so Marcy Casino Stairs. This is under construction as well. This is now an active construction site here on the west side of the Marcy Casino, and it will remain so into 2023 with the result of rebuilding a better set of stairs on the side. Additionally, another grant we received through our Assembly member, now Senator Sean Ryan, was some opportunity to make some masonry improvements and replace doors and some windows on the building itself. Again, that's moving through the paperwork process. We're happy to report that the grant disbursement agreement has come back our way from New York State. So that big black hole of sending things into Albany and wondering when you're gonna get them back. We've taken a step in the right direction and that information coming back our way. So again, you'll hear more about this project as we move it along. And then another exciting project, moving through the design phase is the restoration of the Point of the Meadow restrooms, upgrades for ADA, and just improving, what are some, worn out restroom facilities. We're working through the design process. You know, I think due to COVID, due to a variety of things, the price of everything, this project has come back with some cost estimates that far exceed what we had anticipated. So we've got some challenges to work out in terms of value engineering and getting creative. But again, the process is moving along and hopefully soon we'll be moving from design into construction. But that final design review will again happen in this room before we take that next step along the way next year. And then with related to golf, our National Golf Foundation brought them in to sort of help us do a fair amount of analysis. One of the things that they're helping us through is some market analysis, and some of their findings is helping us through our evaluation of our fee structure that we'll be sharing with Common Council later this year. I think I just got sidetracked by Zoom. Taking a great step forward. We are finalizing a contract with our contractor who is going to manufacture and do the refurbishment of all of our existing signage, and as we were talking about earlier, help us take the next step and adding new signs for not only identification of the parks, wayfinding within the parks, through the parks, and even the next step of interpretive elements and interpretive signage. So we've developed our standards in place, and that should be moving forward, manufactured through the winter for a lot of installation next spring. So pausing there, again, that is a number of projects moving forward. I'd like to keep you all in the loop every step of the way. So any thoughts or comments or concerns about any of these projects? I just sort of rattle through quickly here. Yes.
I have a question regarding the Marcy Casino stairs and the grand staircase reconstruction.
Yes.
When is that expected to be complete?
So they're both under construction now. They've both hit some unexpected aspects in terms of their construction process. So construction is going to continue through the end of the year. And I think the goals are, by things starting to sort of ramp back up next year, that we're starting to turn the corner on that project. I know that I can give you an exact date of these sort of fresh issues on the table. But again,
Next year sometime?
next year, oh yeah, for sure, next year sometime. Yeah, we're not gonna leave things.
Mid-year or something? Or-
Yeah, I would say, but in 3 months' time, I'll have a better answer for you, and then probably 3 months after that, hopefully, we're talking about, wrapping up those projects. But certainly, 2023 projects. Any other questions? All right. Final thing, so just in terms of park issues, a couple items of the day that really sort of came out of this group and have been moving their way through the process. Pickleball has been discussed. We gave the update last meeting. That again through, it's actually sort of summarizing the process through the year. The project came up through the OCA. It was sort of refined and discussed, and sort of there was sort of general consensus in this room that we should explore this further. The great advocacy group associated with and fighting for pickleball in West New York, joined us at our June Design Review Committee, where they presented some of their thoughts. And the Design Review Committee and the City of Buffalo were able to give their feedback in terms of some of their priorities. Summarize that, and we provided that information to the council member, and I just circled back with the with the advocacy group earlier today, just laying out that so now it's time to sort of get that proposal and application fine-tuned, so that we can again sort of revisit and come up with a real strategy in terms of what it's going to look like moving this forward, so as we can. So been a good process. I think people are new to the review process for thinking about new things in historic parks. Might be a little surprised how long things take, but it's really all about being thorough in terms of the evaluation, but sort of working it through again with the public and the design review committee. Really, it's looking like a very positive thing for the future, and now it's just about taking it that next step. So. Christine, I know you're on the Zoom or were earlier. Hopefully you got.
Yeah, I'm here.
And we can follow up offline on the nuts and bolts of how we take the next step.
Okay.
I'm good.
Good.
Great. But yeah, so just a quick reminder, good analysis of all the sort of existing tennis courts, and narrowed in on the police radio tower courts, and this just sort of a crude sort of overlay of what it might look like to convert these underutilized courts to pickleball. Only open it up to other discussion ideas, just to keep people aware of, with Lincoln Parkway being part of the district. The Slow Streets program has identified that speed hump is going to go in just to orient you here on the right-hand side of the page. You've got Forest Avenue on the left-hand side, Bird Avenue, and sort of the outer edges of Soldiers Circle. That section of Lincoln Parkway. Typically these things manifest through community requests. So I'm assuming that's where this one is being generated. But again, to sort of cut down on speeding traffic on neighborhood streets. Probably seen lots of places speed humps going in. So in the next few weeks, this speed hump is going to be going in. The only thing that our executive director has followed up on is whether by rule and regulation, there's a way to avoid having these signs go into our historic landscape. Can they be put on the outside of the road? So again, look for that speed hump, and hopefully we'll be sort of moving forward in terms of making sure we're doing everything in the most historically sensitive way possible.
Brian, what about Rumsey? Rumsey has any requests for speed bumps? Because I can tell you, you're speeding there every day. It's not good.
Yeah, well, that's so I threw up the next slide, which is basically the city's website, the website here, the Slow Streets program. It's a pretty cool interactive program where there's a citywide map, and it identifies all the streets with the possibility. I don't know if we can see from this whether there's anything. I think it's I think it'll potentially be open for inclusion. So it's basically there's a process of application. For 2023, the process seems to be closed out, but the new round goes through August of 2023. So, well, we can just work with you on making sure that gets through into the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, the city seems to be making this effort again, thinking about streets that we can slow down traffic and make sure it's safe for everybody. And honestly, personally, I feel like I found if you're driving the right speed, these speed humps really don't cause you much problem. If you're driving the wrong speed, it can really, ruin your day in terms of setting your car bouncing around. So it's really all about enforcing, doing the right thing. So it's a good program that the city's got up. And, yeah, again, encourage you to take a look at the website. More information. So with that, again, let's throw up that thinker. Anything else new for the district? Any thoughts people have? And we can circle back on other items, but new for the day. I don't know, someone in the room looks like they got something on the tip of their tongue. Yeah. No? No, just not hanging out with it. Giving this guy a hard time because he's my father, so I'll be there. But yeah, anything else? Again, the idea here is, again, just keeping you informed about the projects we got going on, but making sure that, you know, this is the place where new ideas are originating and we're taking them the next step. All right, hearing nothing on Zoom. Put through. Well, all right, well, I don't know if we're doing on time. Oh, boy. We're doing on time. So record pace for this meeting. And, thank you very much. I'd say the last thing we kind of alluded to at the beginning was we are going to be contemplating the format of these meetings, whether we're sort of making an effort to make the in-person meetings sort of more significant celebrations, discussion of being in meetings where there was food, that, you know, something we can explore, sort of make the in-person events more fun and meaningful, and we can think about other formats, whether it's going all digital for certain meetings, just sending out, you know, more like a newsletter format. So we're gonna talk about this over the winter, and you know, 2023 might be a new evolution of the OCA. Let's see where it goes. That. Thanks everybody for being here. And, thanks everybody on the Zoom. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, everybody.